The 80-20 rule for leads and the power of focus for generating the right clients that fuel growth and market dominations instead of toxic clients that kill your business. We're going to speak about and talk and discuss essential growth systems that pave the way for innovation and creativity that invigorate marketing and sales better than trying to game the algorithms. Welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show. I'm Paul Guyan, your host, the Lead Machine coach and founder of the Lead Machine Mastermind. I'm dedicated to helping you tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream. So whether you're just starting out or taking your business to the next level, let's get this conversation started and turn your dreams into reality.
Welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show, where you will discover how to tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream. Paul Guyan, the mastermind behind the Lead Machine, introduces you to trailblazers who inspire you to implement life-changing solutions and systems you can model to nurture your leads and get your offers seen by your ideal clients who will invest in themselves and you. Be sure you visit our website at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, tune in and get ready to transform your vision into reality.
Recognized by Ad Age magazine as one of the world's top 25 marketing technology trailblazers in 2017, and the #1 best-selling author on B2B marketing and sales, Mark Osborne brings decades of experience creating revenue growth systems for B2B, SaaS, tech, and professional services firms. Mark's believed he has delivered tens of millions of dollars in revenue for his clients and often doubling revenues and pipelines in as little as 90 days, which is very impressive. Through his focus on building revenue systems instead of hacks that emphasize strategic approaches to growth. He's the founder of Modern Revenue Strategies, which offers a 10x ROI B2B growth guarantee, which is really, really unusual and welcomed. And he's offering at the end a free diagnostic tool to help you identify the fastest path to growth. So stay tuned. Mark, it's a pleasure to have you on today. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Paul. I'm excited for our conversation.
Yeah. So tell us, we mentioned killing leads. Don't we all want to have leads? You have a book, Are Your Leads Killing Your Business? Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
It's funny, just as you said, most businesses are obsessed with more leads, more leads, more. I need more leads. Wake up in the middle of the night. I need more leads. But one thing that I've noticed over years of working with a lot of B2B companies is that not all leads are created equal. And we all know the 80-20 rule of business, which is 80% of your revenue comes from about 20% of your customers. And it winds up being fairly true for most businesses. That's really even more exacerbated in sort of the lead stage, and that like just a few of the leads that come in wind up being the customers that are going to really sort of move your business for you. And the problem with more leads instead of higher quality leads is you can't identify those few diamonds in the rough, if you will, to swarm all of your resources on them to win. And if you don't identify them early and then give them all the attention that they need, your competitors will. And so they'll wind up taking those best opportunities out of the marketplace. And then you're left with, what I call the table scraps, sort of the people that aren't good enough for your competitors or who wind up being your customers. And in some ways, they're actually worse than no customers at all, because very often they don't really buy into your, sort of product vision. So as a result, they want you to do custom work for them, which likely isn't what the rest of the marketplace wants. It's not what you want to build in your business. And so that pulls you further behind your competition because you're putting your scarce resources to build things that aren't really scalable or workable for the marketplace. Not only do they require this customization, but they also are likely to really negotiate down because, again, they never bought into your product vision. And so they don't see the value. And so they're going to negotiate really low rates. Then with this custom work, they're likely not going to be profitable. And ultimately, they're going to churn anyway. And churn before they provide any referrals, or before they provide testimonials, or even provide enough sort of income to justify working with them at all. So I've seen time and time again, when businesses don't build the systems that allow them to attract the right customers, to identify those best opportunities so that they can accelerate them through the sales pipeline, or then activate their existing clients for faster renewals, larger upsells, more referrals. When they don't have those systems, they go into this death spiral, and their leads wind up actually killing their business. And so that's what the book's all about, and sort of lays out how modern companies are really sort of approaching this problem. McKinsey says that the pandemic lockdowns accelerated some of the trends in B2B marketing and sales by more than 10 years and less than 10 months. So, 10 years of change happened in less than a year. And so the businesses that didn't adapt to that are really being left behind. And so that's what the book is about, is to really sort of lay out how businesses can adapt to this modern landscape.
It's really interesting that you pointed out the 80/20 rule right at the beginning. And I know I met Perry Marshall at a Dan Kennedy event in 2014, I think it was, and he
Okay.
had just released that 80/20 sales and marketing book,
Uh-huh.
which maybe we could unpack the 80/20 a little bit further, because I'm just fascinated by that. And some of my clients, they have big clients, but the margins are really small and there's churn there, and it's really dangerous to have
Right.
those kinds of clients. Although their prestige and that kind of thing is enamoring, it's attractive.
Sure.
However, going for the more clients that fit you better makes a lot more sense for longevity and sustainability and those kinds of things. But maybe you can unpack that 80/20 a little bit further, and how maybe you can apply that to a business.
Sure. So one of the things that we very frequently will do early on in working with a company is, let's print out everyone that generated any revenue for you in the last year, 2 years, some reasonable time frame, and let's
Mhm.
rank them by the revenue that they generated for you, and then create a sort of cumulative ranking of the percent of total. It makes it really clear and easy to see. And what we invariably see is that about 20% of number, so if you had 100 clients, about 20 of them make up about 80% of the total revenue.
Yeah.
And that actually can be a little more lopsided than that, but it winds up an uncanny amount of times being pretty accurate. And so
Yeah.
one of the things that we start to do is, now we define that top 20% of customers as our tier one ideal customer profile. And we start to look at what is similar about these businesses to each other. And how can we build systems that allow us to do a better job of speaking to those people and really attracting them magnetically to the business, while at the same time sort of magnetically repelling those companies that aren't that sort of tier one fit. And we'll build criteria for qualification of opportunities as they come in, that not only looks at things like firmographics. So, it's in an industry where you've had success, and it's of a size where you've had success, but also sort of qualitative measures of their fit, like they're in the same sort of business context as your best customers. Maybe that business context, and maybe you have a solution that brings needed efficiencies to businesses. And maybe that business context where they need that efficiency is a shrinking market. And so if you identify that, while we really do well with companies that are struggling with a shrinking marketplace, by being able to identify that when an opportunity comes in, you can prioritize that opportunity. And then those tier one ideal customers get all of your resources, all of the attention, all of the personalization. Your tier two, which is sort of that next segment that makes up the next 10% of your revenue. So now we've got kind of 80% of your, or 90% of your revenues covered. We call them tier three, or sorry, tier two. And maybe they don't get as much attention, but they're still important clients, and they still keep the lights
Mhm.
on and diversify your portfolio to reduce some of that risk. And then there's tier three, which might be a long tail of everybody else. look for ways to, use automation or other systems where you can close those deals with minimal effort, and so that you can really focus the resources where they need to go, which is on closing those tier one.
Yeah, and I think when you do that and that initial analysis that you started out with is that it's important to also be aware that, those companies that are producing the biggest revenue, they may not be your ideal customer. And so you need to look at the profit margins and you
That's
need to
right.
look at the effort and the customization that they're requiring because they might not be the right fit.
That's
And
right.
it's like those big whales that I was talking to you about. So you've got to do some soul searching, I think, when you do that to say, oh gosh, but yeah, if I have this one, everyone else is going to think I'm the cool guy on the
That's
block
right.
because I got the coolest customer, but they suck. And they have us, and I can't tell you how many times they call us and they want this customization and they take their time and they're slow and they don't respond and then they
Yeah.
then they go out to bid. And then you got it. So there's churn and there's, like, oh, am I going to be able to keep these guys? If we lose that, boy, that's $3 million of our revenue. That's a big, so you really do have to take some do some soul searching when you're looking at that, doing that
Well,
exercise.
and we prioritize those things as what we call our activation system. So activating existing clients for faster renewals, larger upsells, more referrals. And one of the things that we find is that so few companies just take the time to look at that and actually think about how profitable are these customers? How well aligned are these customers with our product vision? Like, are they real partners with us, helping us build the thing that we want to be building, or are they requiring all this customization that is pulling us behind the market? And then once you know that, then you can implement some systems to help you sort of correct the situation. Maybe it's improving the margin that you have. Maybe it's decreasing some of the hand holding and some of the extra touch, or maybe it's just leveraging them for additional publicity or PR so that you're actually getting the value out of the relationship. And
Yeah.
it's so funny. Many businesses are sort of scared to do those things because they think they're gonna, scare off those big marquee customers that they're so dependent on. But we actually see that, very often you have more sort of leverage in those situations than you think because they don't really necessarily want to go out to bid. That's a strenuous process for them.
Yeah.
And particularly for some solutions, just the idea of ripping and replacing can be really onerous. And so if
Yeah.
you time it well to align with sort of their peaking enthusiasm and the peaking value that you're delivering to them, you can really be surprised at just how willing companies are to tame some of their requests or spend a little more money to get a little more value or to be that advocate for you in the marketplace.
Yeah. And you mentioned systems, and that makes me think of a client that I worked with quite a few years ago. But I was responsible for our systems development, and I
Uh-huh.
was the CIO. And we started out with less than $1 million in revenue. We grew to 50 million
Wow.
over about 15 years. And I was the architect behind the systems that we created. And the thing that we wanted to do is we wanted to build from the start uh, business processes and automation that allowed us to manage by exception. So we managed logistics and delivery of samples and we actually did we created a system for the airlines to deliver lost baggage.
I
Okay.
saw that on your
Yeah.
site.
Yeah. And so that was an awesome system. The thing that went wrong with that so that scaled really well. Once we built that, we scaled out to all of our customers, all of our business lines, and had our vendors basically auditing themselves, auditing their rates and proving delivery, and everything was negotiated, and it was just all paperless. And it was just
Right.
amazing. But then what happened was leadership wanted to I worked as a CIO for this company. They wanted to quadruple their growth, and they didn't want to scale those in that business process because we easily could have done that. They started selling systems where we had to manage everything. We had to
Oh,
micromanage everything. And so
oof.
this is when I left the company,
Yeah.
not involuntarily, not voluntarily. I warned them and said, hey, this we have to deliver the systems that you have or that you want, we have to retool. So are you willing to do that, or should we rethink our growth strategy?
Yeah.
And they didn't want to hear that. They just wanted to grow and grow. And so what happened was, as I warned them, you're going to lose customers, you're going to lose vendors, and you're going to lose employees because you're going to burn them out because of micromanaging. Because we
Right.
scaled really well, and so what are some of the systems that you can use to attract those ideal customers? And you mentioned SaaS
Yeah.
in the bio. What are some of the systems that you can create that will help you attract those ideal customers?
Yeah, I'm sure you've had this experience in your career, which we have a phrase around here. We say, systems set you free, because what we see is that it does a lot of things. It sort of sets you free from sort of the worry of, well, is this going to pay off? Well, because you've got a system, you know what goes in, you know what comes out, and so you can have a lot more confidence in that. It also sets you free from a lot of just kind of the turmoil of running a business, because instead of it, finger wagging, you did a bad job, it's, well, the system let us down.
Yeah.
Or your idea was bad. It's, well, the system isn't working the way that we want it to. And we actually see that it creates a lot more collaboration and even more creativity, because people can sort of come together to sort of objectively work on a system that can be improved, rather than it being, well, my way of doing things or your way of doing things, and then, sort of getting into that conflict. So the types of systems that we recommend specifically in those attraction systems,
Mhm.
that's really sort of going from anonymous, we would really, sort of an audience of people that you would like to be customers, to sort of where they're a named target in like your CRM system. We think of these systems to cover that. And one of the first ones is that ideal customer profile. And
Mhm.
really starting to understand who that ideal customer is, and the system of, printing out, sorting them, looking at those characteristics. The next piece of that is also building out the personas of the different stakeholders within your buying committees. And in B2B
Mhm.
today, most buying committees are, kind of complex. There's typically, an actual buyer that's going to sign on the dotted line, but oftentimes he'll anoint a champion to go evaluate, 3 different options and then make a recommendation. There's usually technology and data involved today. So likely someone from the technology part of the company is
Mhm.
going to kick the tires to make sure that it's a fit. There might be end users that are going to come in and evaluate how much this is going to impact their life. So really understanding that complex buying committee is that next system. So sort of mapping out who those people are and what they care about. And then we will map out the sort of the journey that they go on, from kind of becoming aware that this is a problem, to evaluating, is this a problem worth solving? What are the different ways that I could solve it? Well, now that I've picked a way to solve it, what are the different vendors that solve it that way? Now, which one is the right one for me? What's the right solution for me from these different vendors?
Yeah.
Understanding that customer journey creates really amazing opportunities for companies to move beyond just buying ads, and instead recognize where they can really influence the decision-making process. And oftentimes it uncovers really inexpensive ways to get in front of your customers, that when you're not just buying ads like everyone else, but instead really understanding that journey, you have really amazing insights that come out on how to do that. So the next thing that we do is we create a visual representation of what that journey is going to look like, how we're going to impact that journey with different content. Content might be paid advertising, might be sort of owned content or white papers or articles that you're writing, or it might be a phone conversation. And then by mapping that out visually, including sort of your KPIs for success at each stage, and how you're going to sort of measure data that you're going to use to sort of measure the effectiveness. Something like 40% of the population is primarily a visual person. Some of us are auditory. I tend to be auditory. I kind of talk things out. I write things out.
Mhm.
About 40% of the population is that. But considering that 40% of the population is visual, if you're not making a visual map of your customer journey, you're not getting the best from about 40% of your team. So just creating those visual representations of these systems, that customer journey, how you're going to impact it, and the ways that you sort of expect to measure success and optimize it, you're missing out on some real big opportunities. So those are kind of the key systems on that attraction phase that we try to implement and put in place for our clients.
Yeah, and I think some of the people that I've worked with, some clients that I work in my private mastermind group and my coaching clients, they they don't always they get that they have to define that, but they kind of stop there. And when you mentioned the fact that that they should break down who's involved in the buying cycle,
Yeah,
and saying, okay, there's technology, there could be human resources, there's a subject matter expert,
right.
and ultimately there's a buyer. Who who do you create content for? Well, all of them.
That's right.
You have to create content for all of them to solve the different problems that they might have. For a technology person, it might be a fit in how your system fits. For
Yeah,
an HR person, it might be change management
that's
or
right.
some
That's
sort of
right.
resource utilization or something. So that's real interesting that you go to those links, especially the visualization part. How do clients react to that? Do they go, I've never done this before, or they said, oh yeah, well here's our map. Uh,
So, it's funny. I'm finding that there's more and more folks that have sort of recognized the value of using visuals, and have done it. But a lot of times it seems like a new concept to them just because they've never thought it. And I can say, like, me personally, I'm such a words person. I'm an auditory person, writer, and for me, I'll write it out. And that's how I sort of communicate. But my wife is a graphic designer and runs her own studio, and
mhm.
she's very visual. So if we're not mapping things out, but until we met and I started to learn that other people process the world differently, I probably would have never thought of it. And so it's funny when you sort of explain that to people. Sometimes a real light bulb goes off, and they're like, that's why Jim has his best ideas when we're in front of the whiteboard and not when we're, chatting over coffee, because he needs to, sort of visually see it.
And for you, it's probably the auditory, the chat over coffee, which works better for you. So we need
That's
to be
right.
aware of who we're working with and who our teams are that we're working with, and your clients, how they might be learning. And so having a mix of those things seems like it would be pretty important.
Yeah, when we really get into, so for our clients that have, like, really high ticket items or, large contracts that they're going after, we encourage them to build out profiles of of the different buying committees. Are they likely to be an auditory person or a visual person?
Mm.
And so if they're more likely to be auditory, well, we want to make sure that we've got content that is going to sort of feed into that. And then even in conversation, there are some cues that you can pick up on whether people are primarily auditory or visual. And then you can customize the content that you're creating for them based on that.
And so, what are some of the tools that you use, or in training or methods that you use to help, especially small businesses who either don't have the resources or the education level, or they're working in their business and not on it necessarily. What are some of the ways that you can help them be able to identify those auditory learners and those different kinds of learners and mapping those
Sure.
things out?
So I'll tell a few stories on myself. So there's some great software out there that will sort of natively, plug into Zoom or other, sort of call recording software that then's got a built-in artificial intelligence engine that's analyzing all of the conversations that you're having on calls, whether those
Mm.
conversations are sales conversations where you're trying to get a point across, or whether they're sort of customer success conversations where you're, sort of trying to lead from problem to solution. They'll actually do a lot of that analysis instantaneously and send it to you as a recap of the meeting. And that I was a little resistant to recording all of my calls when I
Yeah.
first started doing this, but I have
Mhm.
found it to be really worthwhile and even transformative in terms of it allowing you to identify, oh, I thought that I was doing a lot of asking questions and listening, but I was speaking 80% of the time during that call. And the software will just tell you that. And so that's one easy thing for folks to implement that's definitely worth doing. There
What
are
is it
also
called?
some great, what was that?
What did you say it was called?
Well, so I use Fathom, which is
Okay.
a
Yeah.
popular one out there.
Uh-huh.
Gong is, Gong.io was one of the first, and they're fantastic, but they're quite expensive.
Yeah.
It's really sort of intended for more of an enterprise solution. Zoom is getting better every day, and they're sort of built in. But what I have seen is the capabilities of a Fathom, and there's a million of them out there. I saw one earlier today, Day.ai, that someone I was chatting with said that they love their assistant, and that's what the one they use.
Hmm.
But evaluate the one that's right for you and your business. There's also some great tools out there that will do a personality assessment of people based on their LinkedIn profile. And it'll actually go out and identify their so all the posts that they've written, the way that they talk about their career and their descriptions, as well as their Twitter feed or whatever else it might be, and give a disc profile. If you're
Yeah.
familiar with the disc personality
Yeah.
profile, it'll
Uh-huh.
give a disc profile of that person, and in fact, even it'll coach you as you're writing an email to that person of, hey, this is how this person's going to respond best. And
Wow.
I find some of those tools to be really powerful in sort of shaping the sales narrative as you're, sort of speaking to those decision makers.
Yeah, and these days, because of the what happened to the pandemic, and now it's commonplace to have conversations over Zoom and those
Yeah,
and Teams and whatnot. So that becomes a lot easier to accomplish, so that you could do that analysis.
that's right.
So
Well,
that's
and
really
even
interesting.
I've even seen companies that have built it into their process and their system so innately that even when they're on site, they'll say, hey, we want to bring in we want to have a Zoom, video conference for someone back in the office and record it for them so that they can see the presentation, just so that they can have their AI and they're listening and taking notes and interpreting everything that's happening in the conversation.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. So they do that over with a laptop or a
That's right.
tablet or something.
Yeah. So they'll be on site with the client, but they'll go ahead and open it and have it open on the desk, and any presentation that they're running off the laptop gets captured, and all the conversation in the room gets captured.
Nice, nice, nice. Wow. So we kind of went down the rabbit hole there.
Sure.
Um, You mentioned or we mentioned in the bio, and earlier on, I was looking at some of the things you were saying. There's there's growth hacks, which a lot of people are attracted to. I would call those shiny objects.
Yeah, that's
And then
right.
there's the other thing. So there's some danger in chasing shiny objects. Many entrepreneurs are just enamored with them. Remember the BlackBerry when the BlackBerry came
Oh
out?
yeah. Oh yeah.
And that was so disruptive to the IT infrastructure and security and privacy and all those things. Plus, just it was rude. People had the BlackBerry, and oh, I got my email. Oh, what was that you said?
Right.
So, but let's get back to the growth hacks
Sure.
versus the growth systems that you're talking
Sure.
about.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of folks, especially in marketing, that their entire career, 20 plus years has been around kind of arbitraging insight, gaming the algorithm. And if you remember back to, the early days of the internet, keyword stuffing was the
Yeah,
the key to SEO. And then if you were number one in the position, you get all this traffic, and it's essentially for free. And I actually do believe that for many years, that was the name of the game. It was about gaming an algorithm.
yeah,
And in fact, you read my bio earlier. Thank you. I was really into that. I knew all the growth hacks. I was deep into all that technology, so much so that Ad Age magazine named me a marketing technology trailblazer. But the marketing technology conference publishes like a landscape every year of all of the different companies in marketing technology and data and customer data. When they first started publishing that, there were about 150 companies on the list. I think it was about 2011. I might be getting that year wrong. This past year, there were over 10,000. You
oh wow,
cannot keep up with the pace of change. And so if your approach to growth is just to find the new hack that's gonna, that one silver bullet that's going to change everything for you, you can't keep up. You can't find that one hack. And also, everyone else is doing the same thing too. Everyone else has figured out that game. And so as I looked at companies that were consistently growing, it wasn't the ones that were chasing this hack and it paying off, or chasing this hack and it paying off. It were the ones that built a system. And then they layered into that system technology that could make it run faster, or make it run with fewer errors, or make it run 24 hours a day, or data that allowed them to be more precise, or more sort of correct, or more accurate. It's those systems that then layer in that data and technology that really delivers the results for businesses. And then, there's all these other benefits of a system too, which is it scales a lot better. The idea of being able to collaborate on the system instead of, sort of, pointing fingers at, well, you tried this strategy and then it didn't work. Well, because it was a one-off. And the sad thing is I see so many companies that'll like chase this thing for a quarter. Well, it didn't work. Throw it out. Chase this thing for a quarter. Didn't work. Throw it out. Next thing you know, it's a year later, and they're exactly where they were a year before, wondering why things aren't paying off. It's because they're, chasing those shiny objects. And the other thing that happens with a lot of these growth hacks is it may result in a lot of traffic or a lot of leads, but they're not the right leads.
Yeah.
And again, that goes back to that problem of those leads killing your business.
Well, and the other thing that happens, and I have a company I'm working with that that they did some SEO and they did some inbound marketing, which is all great. They finally walked into that, decided to invest in inbound marketing and creating some systems and capture leads, and that now they're doing the paid ads. Well, the funny thing that happened was that they just started getting traffic, but there's no conversions. And I said, well, there needs to be a mechanism that's compelling to convert those people. And right now, the page that we've got isn't doing that. So we need to wait a minute. The traffic people and the people that are doing the conversions, they're not doing this. They're not
Right.
they're not in sync. They're not in lockstep. And so, we're kind of reevaluating that. And fortunately, we're right at the beginning of the project. So, we will be, hopefully everyone will be in on that idea to say, okay, let's have some more conversion mechanisms in place that, like you say, filter out the right kind of people. Because some people that come to the website, they're looking for one-offs, and really they're not ideal.
That's
And
right.
we're looking for people that are in that mid-range that have thousands of these things that they need for their event or whatever it is.
Right.
But it's really interesting that we talk about this, because that happens with the growth hacks. Well, I know I need to get some paid traffic. I know that, SEO takes too long. And
Right.
if I can just get some more leads to my website, the business
Yeah.
is going to grow. But they don't have the infrastructure to convert those leads and then take them into their sales process. Now, this one company that I work with, if their salespeople can talk to a warm lead, they will convert them a really high percentage.
Right.
And that company also has an almost 90% reorder rate. So they're doing a lot of things really good. But very interesting that we talk about this.
Well,
So
and you make that interesting point too about, sort of kind of not being aligned and not
yeah,
collaborating. One of the things that we really encourage companies to do is to not think about a marketing team and a sales team and a customer success team, but
yeah.
instead to have a revenue team
Ah,
that has a shared scorecard. So everyone gets, sort of measured on what volume of leads did we bring in. Now, the marketing team has a little more, accountability for that, but the customer success team might know some of the things that your customers really love and be able to communicate that back to marketing that marketing would never know.
yeah.
Likewise, sales might have more responsibility for closing those leads, but they'll be giving the feedback to the marketing team on, hey, you're not bringing us the right folks for us to be able to close. So bringing that sort of team together is another real key to success.
Yeah, and you mentioned team. It's got to be a team. It can't be. Many times you have departments in the company, and they're always bickering and complaining about the other company. There
That's right.
needs to be a team that you have this common goal, and
That's
so
right.
that reflects on the leadership of the company. So, what are some of the some of the common mistakes that B2B companies are making when they're trying to implement these growth strategies. And I think we've touched on a bunch of them already. But what are some
Yeah,
of the other
so
things that you see?
one of them that is it's kind of hard for the mindset to shift, which
Yeah.
is especially in B2B and especially in some kind of slow moving industries in business. Um, there was this mindset for so long that if you were one of the top 3 to 5 providers in the marketplace, customers would call you and say, hey, I'm about to go to bid or do an RFP for this type of solution. What should I be thinking about? And then you would guide them to how to think about it. And if you were good, that would give you the opportunity to sort of shape their criteria so that you would wind up looking good in their evaluation. But it would be more of a sort of an ongoing relationship from very early in the conversation. Today, 70% of the buyer's journey is complete before they ever talk to a vendor. So
Yeah.
they have already pretty much decided the way that they want to solve it, the people that they want to talk to about solving it their way, and then they begrudgingly will have a conversation with a salesperson to say, all right, so give me your pitch. And some of that I blame non-consultative salespeople over the years that sort of trained the B2B buyers to keep them at arm's length. But today they just can, because there's so much information out there on the internet. So there's an expectation that you can really sort of fuel the dark funnel, as they call it, sort of like all of this research that they're doing before they engage with you, before you can really know who they are. You need to really fuel that in a way that isn't just sort of stomping your feet of, well, why don't they just call me so I can tell them all that they need to know. You just need to recognize that they're not going to. The other thing that the big mistake that we see people do is they forget that in business there's still people, and it's people making decisions. And people are fundamentally emotional animals. We make decisions based on emotion, and then we justify that decision with logic. And
Yeah.
far too often in the B2B space, we see companies, basically just make an argument that's entirely dependent on the logic of the argument and sort of cut and dry features and maybe benefits that they're going to get, but it's all just focused on the sort of the business outcome or the logistics or the logic of why you should buy this. Whereas we really encourage, as part of that persona building and as part of identifying the different decision makers within a buying committee, especially for large deals, to think about what's their personal win as well as their business win. Sure, you're going to make their company more efficient or make more money or need fewer hours to do whatever it is your product or service does. What does the person get out of it? Do they want a promotion? Do they want less stress in their life, and you're going to remove some of that stress from their work life? Do they want to spend more time with their kids? But by understanding both the personal and the professional win, and really sort of highlighting that as part of your sales pitch and as part of your marketing materials, that can be much more powerful than relying solely on the sort of dry facts.
Yeah, I like that. Um, I see those kinds of mistakes as well. What are your thoughts? We're going to shift gears here a little bit
Sure.
because there's an elephant in the room that everyone's talking about, and people are just this is another one of those shiny objects, but it's
Sure.
super important. What about AI and how it should be used and how it's misused
Sure.
in those systems creation of systems? It's got
Yeah,
a role. It's got a big role.
it does for sure. And like the broad topic of AI, I think we all do ourselves a disservice by not being more precise. Like, what do we mean when we say AI?
Yeah.
And I've been fortunate enough to work with data scientists and engineers that have been building predictive analytical models for decades, which is fundamentally using artificial intelligence, or what we call artificial intelligence today. It's really machine learning and data science more than it is artificial intelligence. This new trend with generative AI, which essentially uses large language models to create an easier interface, it is kind of just making a lot of these things more accessible. The things were already there, and I think a
Yeah.
lot of businesses were already using them. And then the other sort of key component that people lump into AI, which it isn't, which is that you can use these predictive models, machine learning models, to predict what's going to happen and then enable automation to take over and then activate against that. A lot of people call that AI, but it's not really, it's automation. And so we try to encourage people to think about them differently. As you know, are you building a model that's using data to, make a decision? Are you, trying to, save some time or create some content or have a better interface so that you're using like a large language model like ChatGPT or something like that? Or are you trying to enable automation that's going to make things run faster, better, smoother? And so just by separating that, you start to really understand, well, what is the thing? What's the core principle of the thing? What's it intended to do? How can it really help me? But the real key I'll come back to is creating a system. And if you start with a system and that critical client flow of I've got to get them, awareness, interest, desire, and action, for lack of a better phrase.
Yeah.
And then what are my systems that create and deliver against that? Now, how can I improve those systems with data and technology? And maybe AI is one of those technologies that you'll use, but you start with the system, start with the business objective, and then build the system to deliver against that objective, and then improve that system with data and technology, which might be AI.
Right. And you're right. Automation is the key in that whole, it's a workflow, it's a process.
That's
It's
right.
people are involved, there's tools. And so I look at AI as, for me, as a tool. It helps me with my podcast, it helps me with my analyzing data and making decisions based on the data that it comes up. But it goes down to in generative AI is the kinds of questions I ask and how
That's right.
well I do that and the kind of data that I give it. And so, yeah, interesting answer to that question because most people, I think when they think of AI, they think of Chat GPT and
Yeah,
generating content and those things. But they AI needs to fit into the rest of it,
that's
the
right.
automation in the system so that you can make better decisions. So I like that answer.
Thanks.
In your bio, I have to ask you this. So
Sure.
one time you said sometimes sales meetings go up in smoke.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So I was working with a client that was making a big presentation for an annual contract to one of their big customers, and this was at the time when Survivor first came out.
Mm.
And so I don't know if you remember this, but it was like a cultural phenomenon. Like everyone talked about Survivor, everyone watched that first season. It was, had stupendous ratings. And so the salesperson or my client's sort of lead person was like, I want to like do something fun for this presentation. So I want to do like something related to Survivor, and I'm going to talk about how this competitor gets kicked off the island for this reason, and this competitor gets kicked off the island for this reason. But we're the last one standing. We deserve your business. And so he like dressed up as Jeff Probst, like had the like pith helmet and the khakis and he had a tiki torch that he brought in, and he was gonna like walk up to the meeting room with the tiki torch burning, and then sort of snuff it out and go into his presentation. So it was actually a fun idea. So we're standing in the lobby. The receptionist lets the contact know that we're there, and he pulls out the lighter to light up the tiki torch. And the receptionist is like, "You don't want to do that." 10 seconds later, all the sprinklers come on, all the fire alarms go off. We're on
Oh,
like the 10th floor. So everyone comes pouring out of the building, like literally getting rained on, going down the stairs to get out. And then when we, actually after the fire alarm's over, we sheepishly come back upstairs, and the buyer is, so apologetic. "Oh, I'm so sorry you had to, put up with that." And then she sees his outfit and sees the tiki torch and realizes he was actually the one that triggered the fire alarm. But we pivoted the conversation. We talked about, sorry that happened, but that's a symbol of how much we care about your business, that we're going to take the time to really be creative, and we've put a lot of thought into this and walked them through the arguments about why they should be the last one standing. We did wind up getting the deal, but it was definitely a story for the books.
Wow, I have a similar story. Do you remember the movie Pet Detective
Oh
with
yeah.
Jim Carrey?
Oh
Well, the
yeah.
opening scene is he's wearing a brown uniform and he's a
That's right.
package delivery guy,
That's
and
right.
he was throwing and kicking the package and stuff, and then he went into shakes it, and there's it's whatever's in it is broken,
Right.
and so we had a client come into our distribution into our conference room. Thomas Register was the name of the client.
Okay.
They make manufacturing books,
Okay.
B2B sources, and uh, and then we had another brown carrier, the real one,
Uh-huh.
in the room. So they had a video that they wanted us to show that this is our partnership. We are partnering with UPS and with Thomas Register. We are managing all the logistics. And so we swapped the video and we put the Pet Detective
Oh
video
no.
in. And we were talking about, and of course, they were horrified. The UPS was just horrified that their packages, and of course, we're going to kick your packages all over the place and then
Right,
deliver them, and we
right.
don't really care. And boom, here you go. And the client, Thomas Register, they were roaring laughing, and of course we were laughing too. And then our UPS rep was just turning red. You know, it was so funny, so funny. But we didn't burn down the business. But we did get the business though too. So because it was that funny,
That's right.
and it just broke the ice. And so in some ways it broke the ice too when you almost burn the business down.
That's right. Well, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, the emotional component, people
Right,
making decisions in business. It's
right,
not all based on logic.
right. Amen. Well, Mark, it's been enjoyable today. As we wrap up with your final words, what are three things that our listeners and viewers can do to put these ideas into action?
Sure. The first is, sort of, you mentioned it earlier, but the free diagnostic that we developed, in sort of 15, maybe 20, depending upon how you answer the questions, it'll sort of guide you through. In 15 questions, we can very quickly identify your fastest path to growth. And it might be, attracting more of the right customers, or it might be accelerating those best opportunities through the sales pipeline, or it might be activating your current clients for fast renewals, larger upsells, and more referrals. But having focus on which of those areas is the best opportunity for growth can really create a lot of clarity for companies. Now, I'll warn you, they aren't the easiest questions. We're going to ask things like,
I bet.
what percent of your customers make up 80% of your revenue? How many lead sources generated at least one customer in the last 12 months? And what's your growth rate? So there'll be some things that you might need to break out the books to answer. But when you answer those, we'll be able to give you a free report that says, here's how you compare against benchmarks that we've built over 20 years of working with businesses in industries like yours, and they're even sort of segmented by industry. And then here are some immediate best practices that you could implement to start to impact some of these key revenue drivers, some of these key KPIs to improve your systems related to that. So that's the first thing that I'd recommend folks do. The second would be to think about, am I leveraging, my team correctly? Am I using visual representations as much as I should? And I work with a client that they're a sort of business process design innovation company. And, you might be familiar with some of the sort of canvases that I think it's strategery.com puts out, but sort of the business model canvas or the value proposition canvas. And working with them, I've really seen the value that using some visual representations in helping people come up with ideas and activate can be really powerful. So if you don't have a visual map of your customer journey, now would be the time to do it. And you'll really be amazed at some of the sort of insights that'll come and the innovations that'll become possible for you once you're sort of stimulating that visual cortex. And then the last thing that I would suggest is bring together a revenue team. Stop, rewarding marketing for bringing in marketing qualified leads that never convert, and stop beating up sales for not being able to convert these leads that were terrible leads to begin with, and stop, holding customer service accountable for not renewing something that sales sold that they could never renew because it was an impossible to deliver on objective. By bringing everyone together, you'll create a lot more sort of clarity on the things that you're trying to do. You'll get ideas from across, even if it's just 3 people that represent those organizations, or even if it's one person that represents a couple of them. Bringing that together and really having that as a revenue focused team, not one that's focused on their silos or their own fiefdoms, can be really transformative.
Yeah, and the other thing is, if you are a team of one, then you should probably seek some wise counsel.
Sure.
But you should have a mindset from those 3 different perspectives.
That's
So
right.
you could be a team of one, but it's always good to have a team of at least 2 or 3, and it could be a partner, it could be a spouse, it could be a confidant or a business coach.
That's right.
For sure,
That's right.
and to get some perspective. So, and also to get that report, can you tell us how to get that report?
Sure. Yeah, just go to modernrevenuestrategies.com, and then it's / diagnostic. And it's right there. It's a very simple form that you fill out online. Based on the way you answer, it'll have a few more questions or a few less. And if you don't know the answers, just say, I don't know. And then I can still, we can put together a report that allows you to sort of recognize where's the most important place to focus. And that focus will really create a lot of clarity in your business.
Yeah, just answering those questions sometimes.
That's right.
Oh, I can't answer that question.
Maybe I should be able to.
Maybe I should be able to, or maybe I'll go and figure out how to do that. So, and also, how can people connect with you on that website, modernrevenuestrategies.com, or is there anything else that you would like to have people connect with you?
They can connect me there. I'm Mark with a K at modernrevenuestrategies.com. Feel free to email me, or connect on LinkedIn. I'm Remarkable Mark on LinkedIn. So feel free to catch up there.
Okay. Well, thanks again, Mark. Remember, faith and action go hand in hand. So keep the pedal to the metal. Until next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show, I'm Paul Guyan and Mark Osborne. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paul. I really had a great time.
Me too.
Thank you for tuning in to the Lead Machine Growth Show with Paul Guyan, where we show you how to tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream so that you can transform your vision into reality. Remember to visit our website at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show.